Good afternoon, my name is Jamie Story. I'm the Deputy Director of Public Works for the municipality of Monroeville, and I'm here to talk to you today about some stream restoration projects that we did in Monroeville to reduce sediment erosion and improve water quality. All right, so the background to our stream restoration projects takes us back to late 1950s, 1960s. The Cuyahoga River in Cleveland was once so polluted that Time magazine said it oozes rather than flows. And in 1969, it had caught on fire for the 13th time since 1868. A 1969 Time magazine article brought the plight of this river to national consciousness, and the country finally decided that the damage that we had inflicted on our waterways had become unacceptable. In the interest of reversing this damage, in 1972, the Clean Water Act was passed, giving the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, the authority to regulate water pollution. To do this, the EPA created the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, which was originally implemented on construction activities, industrial activities, and large cities to regulate water quality. In 1999, NPDES Phase 2 expanded the regulated activities to include small municipal separate storm sewer systems, otherwise known as MS4s, such as Monroeville. In response, the municipality was required to obtain an NPDES permit to discharge stormwater and was required to implement certain actions meant to improve water quality. With funding in place, the PADEP guided the municipality towards stream restoration projects to satisfy our sediment reduction requirement. Because most of our land is developed, it does not produce much sediment-laden runoff. Therefore, many methods treating that runoff would be comparatively ineffective. However, our developed lands do produce high runoff rates that erode the receiving streams, which is likely the largest generator of sediment pollution. Stream restoration is a set of techniques or methods used to reduce stream bank erosion, minimize the downcutting of stream beds, and restore aquatic ecosystems to a more natural stream system. Restoration techniques typically use natural materials such as rock, logs, and native plants to mimic nature and help slow down stormwater flow and restore the natural meander of curve patterns found in stable streams. All right, so we're at the Public Works Garage, and here we have a stream that's heavily impacted by urban runoff from the adjoining residential areas such as Shoemaker Drive, Mackenzie Drive, Thelray Drive, Gateway Drive, as well as PennDOT's Old Frankstown Road and large portions of the Pennsylvania Turnpike. The stream starts at the terminus of a 36-inch diameter storm sewer pipe, and during rainfalls or snow melts, the quantity and velocity of the stream flow increases dramatically. Essentially, the stream is left trying to tame a fire hose. The result was a stream that had downcuts in its bed and had eroded its banks, causing siltation of downstream waters, and had deposited a gravel bar where the water was finally slowed enough to drop some of its heavier eroded load. In order to address these issues and restore the stream, we employed the following techniques. All right, so at the start of the creek, the end of this 36-inch pipe, where you can see in our background here, we installed a rock cross vein with a step pool. So as you can see, stones were placed strategically in the shape of like a C or a V or a U, depending on how you want to look at it, to direct the water towards the center of the stream, away from the stream bank, and reduce erosion. The stone structure creates pools that mimic a staircase to help slow the stream flow, reduce erosion, and create habitat. So you can actually see a scour pool here and a scour pool here. And at this location, basically what we're trying to do is dissipate the energy from the water coming out of the pipe and create an elevation drop so that we can flatten the stream out so that there's less erosion. So once again, you can see the big rocks protecting the banks, the rocks to create the scour pool, and another scour pool afterwards. So this should dissipate the energy of the stream. And then we'll move on down from there. Along the banks of some of the straighter sections, we installed branch layering with a log tow, which consists of layers of live branch cuttings placed horizontally along the stream, embedded with lifts of soil protected with coir matting. Coir matting is heavy mesh netting made from coconut fibers used to hold soil in place and help plants grow, reduce weeds, and retain water. They naturally break down over time, approximately 4 to 6 years, and become part of the soil. Live cuttings are leafless stem cuttings of woody plant species. These cuttings can be placed in various configurations to achieve certain vegetative and stabilization goals. Willow, dogwood, arrowwood, and elderberry cuttings are commonly used for stream rehabilitation because they're easily established from cuttings. New plants will sprout from the live branches, and the roots will hold the soil down and prevent erosion. The branch layering is protected from undercutting by horizontal hardwood tow logs anchored into the bank at normal water level. So in this location, you can see a tow log, which is a hardwood log embedded at kind of like the high water elevation level when the stream's flowing full. Behind it, if you look closely, you can see the coir matting, which kind of looks like a grid of like a fabric with holes in it that's made out of coconut fiber. And then above that, you can see this layer of horizontal branch cuttings. These ones look like willow. So the toe log will protect from erosion from below by the stream. The coir matting keeps the soil in place. The live cuttings will grow into a thick mat of vegetation, and all of their roots will intertwine with the coir matting to hold the stream bank in place. So this whole structure works as one item to keep the stream bank from eroding. In some locations, such as sharp bends where stream bank erosion is too severe for branch layering alone, we installed toe wood with branch layering. This feature consists of root wads and footer logs strategically embedded into eroding banks on stream bends to provide structure and stability, and are infilled with soil mix, live cuttings, and coir matting to resist erosion. Again, new plants will sprout from the live branches, and the roots will hold the soil down and prevent erosion. So in this location, you can see the toe wood with branch layering. This one's a little bit different because you can see these root wads embedded. So this is actually the root structure of a tree with a log. The trunk is actually going embedded back in the bank. So we have several root wads here that slow the water as it comes around. Again, they're embedded in the bank so they don't wash away. And then there's actually logs that go across all of these to tie the structure together. And on top of that, again, we've got coir matting that you can see a little bit better here than you would at the last location that's holding soil in place. And then we have the live cutting branches here taking root. These also look like willows to me. So again, this whole thing will work as one big structure to prevent erosion, and we're at a pretty sharp bend in the creek here where we have some elevation drop, so this would be pretty prone to eroding if we didn't do this protection. All right, so here was an unintentional feature of our stream improvement. I'm standing on a sanitary sewer pipe that was crossing the creek that we found that was unprotected. So there's the potential there for something to come down the stream and break the sewer pipe and cause a bunch of pollution from sewage running into the creek. So we actually protected this with rock and a little bit of concrete to cement the concrete in place. But the nice thing is for us, we had another elevation drop here, so this kind of creates a step pool situation. Again, unintentional, but we took advantage of it. And when you look upstream, you can see a little pool formed for wildlife habitat. Now, wildlife habitat for us doesn't necessarily mean deer or anything big that you could see or comprehend, but stream life, that bugs and things like that the other wildlife feed upon. So it's kind of the bottom of the food chain. But we were able to accomplish a grade drop here so we can lessen the velocity of the stream and take some of the energy out of the stream, but at the same time create a little pool upstream and a little scour pool downstream. So again, one that wasn't really included in our plans or intentional, but something we took advantage of. In strategic locations where the stream energy was found to be directed at the stream banks causing bank erosion, we installed log vanes. In these locations, hardwood logs are strategically placed and anchored to direct stream flow away from eroding stream banks towards the center of the stream. The concentrated stream current forms small pools called scour pools below the vein where aquatic creatures can live. So in this case, you can see this log jutting out from the bank. This log is actually embedded in the bank, probably about as much as you could see exposed. There's that much buried in the bank. This is a hardwood log, so it has some longevity to it. It won't rot very quickly, as with all the other logs used on this project. And you can see this piece of geotextile here. This basically just goes underneath, and we put some fill behind it so that this log structure doesn't get undermined. So that's why you see this fabric poking out here that's nailed to the log. But again, you can see the stream here. In the past, it would have been coming straight down and trying to create as straight a shot as it could, and the entire time it would be flowing fast and eroding the banks. But because we put this log, it's angled from the bank, out from the bank, and it's also angled down, pushing the water towards the center, so you can actually see the water finding its way around. And then behind it, you can see a peaceful little scour pool behind the log. But in actuality, at this location, you can see a whole bunch of features working in unison. So on this bank, as we saw earlier, is the branch layering with toe wood. So again, you can see the toe wood log embedded at the bottom of the bank. It's protecting the bank against the flow. Above it, you can see the coir matting with the soil, and then you can see the live cutting sticking out. So we've got branch layering with toe wood on this side, and then we reach a log vein. The log vein's pushing the water around, so we protected the other bank, again with toe wood and branch layering. Again, you can see the toe wood log underneath. You can see a couple layers of coir matting, and then you can see some other branch cuttings here. These look like elderberries to me. So a bunch of branch laying. You can see how well that's sprouting already, even though it's relatively early in the year. More coir matting on top, protecting the stream bank. And then actually, as we look down a little bit further, you can see another log vein jutting out. And then additional branch layering with tow wood on both sides. And then a little bit further down, we've got another log vein and yet another log vein. Again, both sides continuing to have branch layering with tow wood. So this stretch here where it's fairly straight, we basically try to keep the stream flow from eroding the banks. The log veins continually push the flow towards the center. And then we have the branch layering with tow wood on both sides to protect the banks against any erosion at elevated flows. So as the water flows downstream and the grade of the stream starts to flatten out, the stream becomes less erosive and loses its ability to push large debris, at which point that debris settles out. So at those locations where gravel deposits existed, they robbed the stream of its capacity and forced erosive flows toward the banks. So in those cases, those locations such as this one, there was a gravel bar deposit here that's probably, I don't know, between my knees and my waist, I guess, about that high in the middle of the stream. So what that served to do was it pushed the flow of the water to both sides and eroded the stream banks. So what we did in this case, we're only allowed by our permit to remove the gravel bar within 6 inches of the water surface. So that's what we did at the time. That's 6 months or so before now, so it's changed itself a little bit. But we also protected both banks, again, with tow wood and branch layering. So once again, you can see, if I don't get stuck in the mud, you can see tow wood underneath there, and you can see the coir matting, branch layering. So there's a couple layers of coir matting and branch layering here. And the other side, we actually just have coir matting, again, a little bit more visible maybe than some of the other locations where we protected the stream bank. Finally, a selection of native trees and shrubs suited to riparian or streamside habitat were planted to add additional root systems to protect against erosion and to provide habitat. The species include maple, sycamore, chokeberry, holly, willow, and elderberry. Any disturbed areas within the floodplain were seeded with riparian buffer mix that mirrors the types of ground cover naturally found in Pennsylvania floodplain areas. So here you can see an assortment of different plants. All these different plants were from the seed mix. So we didn't just plant grass here or plant something from Home Depot or whatever. We planted a specific mix that mirrors what happens in nature. And then you can see a rather large maple tree over here. If we look upstream, looks like a sycamore maybe upstream. But so it wasn't just in-stream habitat that we addressed and in-stream stabilization. It's pretty much everything that you see within probably 50 feet of the stream on either side was all impacted, and all of that was touched up with coir matting and either seeding or shrubs and trees. So in totality, when we look at this versus the pre-construction video, you should see a stream that's already looking tremendously better than it was. And this is only 6 months after construction. We're only maybe, I don't know, 3 weeks into the growing season. So the intention is to come back here later in the year or next year and shoot some more video and see what it looks like as it finally starts to mature. We're at the Heritage Park Stream Restoration Site. So at Heritage Park along McGinley Road, we have a stream that is heavily impacted by urban runoff from the adjoining residential areas such as Haymaker Road, Saunders Station Road, Volpe Drive, as well as commercial areas such as Forbes Hospital, the former Westinghouse site, Woodhaven Care Center, and Recovery Centers of America. During runoff events such as rainfalls or snow melts, the quantity and velocity of the stream flow increases dramatically. The stream is left trying to tame the elevated flows and protect itself against the erosive power of the water. The result was a stream that had downcut its bed and eroded its banks, causing siltation of downstream waters, and had deposited gravel bars where the water was finally slowed enough to drop some of its heavier eroded load. In order to address these issues and restore the stream, we employed a bunch of different techniques, which we saw earlier at the Public Works site. We're going to talk a little bit less about how they were done, and we're just going to kind of point them out as we walk down the stream. So the first one we come to as we walk down the stream is, you could see, a log vein. So again, this log vein is embedded in the bank. You can also tell that the stream flow wants to go this way along the bank, but the log toe is actually pushing it out around. So we're always constantly trying to direct the water away from the banks into the middle of the stream. Again, we have a layer geotextile behind it with some soil so that the log toe doesn't, or the log vein doesn't get undermined. And across the way, since the stream flow wants to go erode the opposite bank, we have tow wood and branch layering. Again, the tow wood log that's embedded in the bank, and it's actually secured back. You might be able to see here. a little slot cut in the wood, and it has a steel cable that embeds it back into the bank. That's the way all of these are constructed, although you generally can't see that cable. And again, above it, we've got live cuttings and coir matting with soil in them. So that tow log continues on down, and the branch layering continues on down. And we pick up another log vein. Again, you can see the log veins also tied into the bank with a steel cable. You can't see the cable, but you can see the slot that's cut for the cable in this case. But again, pushing the stream flow away from the bank, away from this bank, and out into where it's protected by the tow log on the other side. So at this location, you can see a nice straight stretch of stream, and you can see how the stream bank's been protected with tow logs and branch layering above it. Again, you've got the tow log tied into the bank, secured with a cable. You've got live cuttings behind it, coir matting and soil. And you can see this long stretch of stream bank where the stream naturally wants to go is all protected against erosion. And then the very far distance, you can see a log vein protruding out as we get down further. So this is a good example of a nice long stretch where you can kind of really see how the flow works with the terrain after we've done the stream bank stabilization. Now once we approach the bend, so we're coming off this long straight stretch where the stream would actually be gathering a little bit of velocity, and we're angling into the stream bank over there. Again, streams have natural meanders to them, so we want to appreciate that. That's what slows the water down, but we also want to protect them against erosion. So we have two log veins, one here and one straight ahead of us, that again are protecting this bank. So you can see the water used to run straight into this bank and undermine it. Now it's being pushed towards the center, and this bank is relatively intact. So anywhere you look here at this bend where in theory there would be erosion, it's protected and there's not erosion. After the two log veins, from the last look up where I was talking, it kind of looked like this was eroded, but in actuality, this bank's protected again with the tow log, branch layering. So you get the branch live cuttings and the coir matting in here. Again, it's a little bit easier to see at this site than the public works site, but we're kind of directing the flow across the creek over there. When we get to across the creek, we have a log vein jutting out to push the water back into the center of the channel again and protect the channel against erosion. Again, we can see the log vein angled out into the stream, deposition behind it, and you can see that in this case, you can see really clearly that it sloped down into the stream. So as the water level rises, it's not just going to overtop that and hit the bank. It's going to keep rising. The structure is going to keep rising with the water. But again, you can see how it's pushing the water away from the bank, and we've got this deposition behind it, and then we have a little scour pool behind it where stream life can live. As we saw upstream though, the log vein pushes the water out to the center of the stream. It's kind of pushing it across on this meander. So again, we have this bank protected with, again, more tow logs, branch layering, and coir matting. So you can see that there's some deposition here, but the rest of the stream's protected. Now at this location, the stream's actually flowing directly against the bank, and you can see that the bank looks somewhat eroded. But in this case, it's like a shale bedrock. I'm actually standing on the stream floor as bedrock. So a couple problems here with putting any sort of structure in here, like a log vein or tow wood with branch layering, is this is bedrock and it's already really steep. So if we were to try to dig into it to put some sort of structure there, we'd most likely destabilize this bank more and make more problems than it's worth. Secondarily, this is pretty hard bedrock here, so trying to embed something into that is pretty difficult. So we'd have to bring like an excavator out with a hoe ram. That would also be pretty damaging to the environment and create more problems than it was worth. So in this case, we're considering that this is fairly stable, and we're just gonna kind of let Mother Nature do her own thing and protect her own bank with the bedrock that she provided for us. On the other side of the stream, we continue with the tow wood and branch layering to protect the opposite bank. Here's an example of Mother Nature making her own log vein. So in this case, it's a fallen tree. Brought a bunch of soil with it whenever the roots, when it tumbled over, the roots took some of the soil with it and actually embedded itself in the bank. So again, when we're doing stream restoration techniques, we're trying to use natural materials to mimic natural occurrences. In this case, this is Mother Nature making her own log vein to deflect the flow out. And same sort of concept, you can see the water flowing, getting pushed out to the center of the stream, and you can see a nice little scour pool behind it where the water's pretty peaceful. And as we approach the end, we've got another log vein Deflecting, you can see that the water used to go straight against the bank and erode it. Now we've got the log vein. You can see the water pushing out around. You can see our little scour pool and our kind of placid water behind it. And then going across, we have the opposite bank. Again, protected with a log tow. You can see our live cuttings starting to spring leaves on them and the coir matting. And I believe that's the end of our stabilization. So this one I think is a little bit easier to see the dynamics of how the water gets pushed around and how we direct the stream flow and the erosive nature of the water away from the stream banks towards the center of the stream and protect the stream banks against erosion. The last but not least, we also provided some habitat improvement, some shading for the stream, and some additional root mass to prevent erosion in the form of trees and shrubs. So here is a red maple, pretty large red maple tree. And as we proceed up, you could see there's a couple willow trees, small willow trees planted here. Willows are pretty fast growing, so they look pretty small now, but barring any animals eating them, they'll grow quickly. But again, all the way up through this corridor, we planted additional trees and shrubs, as well as anything within the floodplain received a riparian buffer mix, which again is probably 15 to 20 plant species that generally grow in riparian habitats in Pennsylvania. So they're plants that are suited towards this type of environment. Again, we're mimicking nature and we're trying to plant things adjacent to the creek that are good for the environment, good habitat for animals, and are meant to grow here and mimic natural processes. So everything that is disturbed was seeded with that mix. And once all this grows in, it should, hopefully in 5 years, it's gonna look like Mother Nature put it all here this way. And in reality, we just gave it a little bit of help. All right, so thanks for taking a little bit of time to watch, and hopefully you learned something about stream restoration and how municipality of Monroeville is using your taxpayer dollars to not only improve the environment, but meet our permit requirements. And hopefully we'll be back to show you another one for Beechwood Park in the coming year.